The decision by a GCSE exam board to drop a number of American literary classics from its syllabus is causing a storm in education circles. The Education Secretary, Michael Gove, had said he wanted to see more British authors studied. It's meant Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird and Arthur Miller's The Crucible are now excluded, as Jane Death reports.
The Charleston Festival is a very English celebration of all things literary. The Education Secretary thinks we could do more to celebrate our native authors.
Mr Gove's guidance encourages the study of homegrown literature. For example, the demand that children study literature or drama of the 20th century written in Britain.
John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men and Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird are not being banned, but some fans are worried that having more Brit-lit in the classroom will leave little room for an alternative worldview.
I'm here with Gemma, Holly and Lucy Louise, who've all either taken GCSE English or are about to start, to ask them what they think about a more British syllabus. Should we be making more room in the syllabus for British works, or maintaining our view beyond our shores? What do you think?
Well, there's enough scope in the syllabuses already for British authors. Like, I studied Pride and Prejudice along with To Kill a Mockingbird. To read two British classics is quite heavy and it's just too narrow. You need to know about other countries and other cultures and other issues beyond your narrow sphere.
So what do you expect will be on your reading list at school?
Well, we've just done Lord of the Flies and I was sort of expecting like the stuff that's been taken off to be next, but so now I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, because Of Mice and Men and To Kill a Mockingbird, they've been around a very, very long time. Yeah. Would you like a break? Would you like to do something different, or are you intrigued by them?
I'd quite like to read them, and I think if you read them at school, then it's a way of ensuring that lots of people have.
And what authors do you read? Which books do you like?
Well, at home I read people like Rachel Caine, but I wouldn't want to read them in school because I'd prefer to read something that I wouldn't normally read at home because I think it'd be more interesting to study.
And tell me about the books that Rachel Caine writes.
She writes quite a few vampire books and I find those quite interesting because there's a lot of action with them.
I think it's fine at the moment because we still do British authors and American authors and they're good books. It doesn't really matter who they're written by.
These readers love The Hunger Games and the Twilight books, also written by American writers, and they say they'd be sad to miss out on the American classics too.
Jane Death reporting. The Department for Education has told Channel 4 News that it's baffled by the row over the new syllabus. It said the mandatory elements were made public in December. They are the study of at least one Shakespearean play, a 19th century novel written anywhere, a post-1914 fiction or drama written in the British Isles, and a selection of poetry. Well, joining me now to discuss all this is Claire Fox from the Institute of Ideas and the Conservative MP Brooks Newmark, who was born in America and who studied American history and literature at Harvard University, which he is now on the board of. Brooks Newmark, what do you make of this move, which is allegedly because Michael Gove just doesn't like these texts? He doesn't think they're good enough.
Well, I'm sort of astounded. I mean, Michael, to me, is one of the brightest people that I know. And I think of him as someone who's open-minded and wants to give the best literature possible to people. And I sat in the green room and I sort of outlined a list. I don't want to be boring here, but Updike, Miller, Fitzgerald, Wharton, Whitman, Twain, you know, Arthur Miller, Tennessee Williams, J.D. Salinger, John Steinbeck, Herman Melville. The list goes on.
Do you think maybe he thinks
American
you're
literature.
not quite that bright, given that you studied American literature? Do you think that's what he's saying?
Well, you know, I can't comment. I think I get a great relationship with Michael. What perplexes me, though, is that we should be choosing the best literature from around the world. I don't care where it's from, as long as it's good literature. That's what we want our children to study.
Claire Fox, what do you make of that?
Well, first of all, let us remember that all that has been suggested here is that the one text post-1914 would be from the British Isles. So actually, many of the authors that you reeled off, great American writers, would actually be able to be studied post in the 19th century section. I studied English and American literature. I think most of the contemporary novels that I most admire are American. So this is not a parochial prejudice. What really is irritating is that actually, if you look at the justifications for why these novels should be read, by people in education, I think you can see where Michael Gove might have been going. 90% of GCSE students do Of Mice and Men, not because Steinbeck is a great...
With that, though? What is the problem with that?
Because when you actually look at the justification, people will say, well, it's short and accessible, so it's not judged on literary merit. They then say it raises lots of relevant issues, like educationally disabled children and so on and so forth, and it raises those things. To Kill a Mockingbird has been defended very widely as an anti-racist text, not as a piece of literature. Now, I love both of the novels and have taught both of them as an English teacher, but I just don't think it's as broad-ranging as we might want.
But the students there spoke about the need to learn about other cultures, to read about other countries.
Of course, absolutely. Which is why I think it's fantastic that you can do that, for example, in the pre-20th century, in the 19th century section. But it's just that, let's just consider what's really at stake. We have a canon of English literature, an absolutely wide testament. I could read a list out like that too, and it's not competitive. It's not as though British children are at the moment being opened up to the great wonders of literature at all. That's my fear. And I think that Gove, you can accuse him of all things, but at least he's saying rigour, at least he's saying we want them to read a book from a start to end.
Do you buy that, though, that it's more rigorous, what Mr Gove is suggesting?
If it is about rigour and it's about, good literature, we should be agnostic as to where that literature comes from. I totally get the importance of studying British history, importance of studying great British literature, but let's not be prescriptive and say, you mustn't read To Kill a Mockingbird, you mustn't read Of Mice and Men. Of Mice and Men is a great book.
I would agree with you, and I would hope that the English teachers of the world will encourage children to read those books.
But an exam board has already taken it off the syllabus.
They don't have to be on an English GCSE for you to encourage people to read them. That's one thing. I'm not actually supporting the prescription. I'm actually suggesting that maybe the reaction to it is telling about the way we view the use of English literature as a kind of easy way in to get kids to read, whereas I think we should give them challenging text wherever they're from.
But these are great authors who are challenging text.
Michael Gove is not banning them. That is a Twitter story or a media story. He's not banning them.
Nevertheless, an exam board has taken them off the syllabus, so students may well read them at home.
But it's also,
they may well read them at home, but it has been taken off the syllabus. And that's interesting,
but there's not everything on the syllabus. Do you see what I'm saying? Not every great literature work is on the syllabus, so you do have to select and make discerning judgments.
I know, but what I don't want us to become is a little bit like the French. The French, I remember you listening to the French pop charts when I used to go to France, and 50% of the songs had to be French, rather than just saying, what is good music? I'm saying, what is good literature? We should be agnostic on that, whether it's British, French or American. I don't care.
Ask you on that point about being prescriptive. Here you have Michael Gove, who many of his critics would say is extremely prescriptive and wants an education, in a sense, in his own image. I mean, do you buy any of that criticism?
No, I think Michael really does care about the education of our young boys and girls. I mean, I went with him to Peckham recently to Leaders of Tomorrow, and the work that the people we went to there are doing great work, teaching them importance of poetry, literature. Michael cares passionately about our young. I'm saying to you, though, we should be agnostic on that.
And really quickly, just on this point, Michael Gove speaks...
In almost everything else, I don't agree with the Conservatives, but Michael Gove on education has been rather brave, and the reaction against him is unhelpful. He's a traditionalist about education, but the tradition of great literature is not something we should be frightened of.
On one very specific point, briefly, if you would, he speaks, an exam board pulls it off the syllabus.
Well,
is that right?
Cowardly exam board, no excuse for that. Michael Gove is entitled to say what he thinks about works of literature which he thinks are boring. Exam boards don't have to go running. However, it is also fair enough for him to say, these are the kind of literature I would like to see
Claire Fox and Brooks Newmark, I'm really sorry, we're going to have to finish it there. Thank you very much.